Hey y'all, how's it going? I've got one here. It's called Nightmares Are Made for the Living. Tossing and turning, tangled sheets holding tight, proof that she could not sleep. Maybe she just not want to sleep. The fear of what would come, what always came, terrified her. Rising from the bed, she put on her slippers and walked in the kitchen. She did not bother with the light. She never did. There was enough light coming from the street outside. She poured herself a glass of tea, grabbed a couple of cookies from the table, and went in the den. There was still a small fire burning in the fireplace, and a wool blanket remained on the couch where she had left it. She sat down on the couch and covered up with her blanket. It had always been her favorite. It was so soft and cuddly. Not only did it keep her warm, but it gave her a sense of security. Reaching for the remote, she turned on the TV and flipped through the channels. It was well past 2 a.m., but with over 100 channels, there should be something on she could watch. But there's really not nothing worth watching anyway. Maybe Netflix would have something, surely. She could not remember the name of the movie she found, but it had a 3-star rating. Not the best in the world, but it was a serial killer mystery type thing. Putting down the remote, her mind was half on the movie and half on any number of things. So many thoughts jumbled together, her mind was in a whirl. She needed relief. If only she could go just a week without these horrible nightmares that plagued her. What had brought them on to begin with? If she could figure it out, then she'd know what to do about it. Did you hear that? She turned her head left and right. She shivered. She was in the house alone. Who asked that question? The only thing she heard was that question. It's possible it come from the movie. After all, it come from that direction, and she had not been listening anyway. I know you heard that. Shivers all over her body. It was a different voice than the one before, and it came from behind her. She was afraid to look, but she needed to look, but could not. She could feel frosty breath upon her neck, and the smell of death penetrated the air. The fire blazed fiercely, and the heat intensified. Trickles of sweat rolled down her face, and she held out her hands. Her fingers were melting, and skeletal bones showed through. Handfuls of hair fell on the couch, and as she took her fingers to wipe the sweat, a piece of skin was attached to her fingernail. She felt a hand on her shoulder, and once again the frightful voice, "Did you feel that?" The pain was excruciating, and she tried desperately to remove the hand from her shoulder. The skeletal fingers would not relinquish their hold. She did not want to see the monster that held her, but she had no choice but to look. A scream tried to come forth, but could not leave her mouth. There was no face, nor eyes, nor mouth, or teeth, just a piece of skin over bones. The frame was skeletal with pieces of rotted flesh scattered here and there. If it had no mouth, where on earth was the voice coming from? Well, that was just it. Looking around, she realized she was no longer on earth, but in a land far below. Death surrounded her everywhere she looked, were creatures of different sizes and varieties, and some were more terrifying than the one that held her, or so she thought. Perhaps a faceless creature was the lesser of the evils. She could be wrong, and she was, as he rose from the floor. There was no entrance, no trap door, nothing that she could see. He just rose through the floor. Surprise registered in her mind, and it showed upon her face. Why, he looked normal. He was dressed as a human with a pair of jeans, silky black shirt. He did have a long black cloak, and I almost laughed. I thought of Dracula. His hair was really long and black, covering the face. The almost laughter died as he removed his fingers from his pockets. Fingers? No, they could not be considered fingers, as they took on the guise of worms, with huge mouths and many needle-like teeth. As the worms grabbed at his hair to remove it from his face, She finally screamed and screamed. His laughter followed her into her dreams. She must have screamed herself awake. The fire died down, and the movie had come to a stop. Her blanket was covered in sweat. Cutting the TV off, she automatically hit the play button, and her nightmare started all over again. If she could just remain alive for the next hour and 50 minutes, she would be okay, for she realized she was trapped in the movie, and the only escape was removing the movie from Netflix. She'd not see that happening until they had their new lineup. Perhaps no one would watch it. She remembered now what it was called. Nightmares are made for the living, and she was the star. As she suffered the rest of the movie, the ratings had gone up to 4 stars. Three more people were watching, and she was stuck inside a nightmare. No way out. Cynthia Clark. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.